Get ready to rumble! Okay, I always wanted to do that. I don't really know why. I don't even like boxing. I used to like professional wrestling. Undertaker was my favorite for you nosy types. Well, today, guys, I may have underestimated exactly and precisely how entertaining last night's Senate debate between John Fetterman and Dr. Oz would turn out to be. Apparently, according to the clips I have seen here and there and everywhere, it was a massive, massive shit show in which John Fetterman basically made himself look like Sloth from the Goonies. And I was planning on doing something completely different today, and then I was on my community call earlier, my open community Zoom, and I said, should I react to this debate? And the answer was an emphatic yes. Yes, you should. The people who watched the debate thought I should react to it. The people that did not watch the debate thought I should react to it. And so here we are. Today's stream is going to be watching the entire Pennsylvania Senate debate between Dr. Oz and John Fetterman and basking in the glow that is, I don't even know what this is anymore. I have to be honest. So John Fetterman's communications director tweeted like about an hour ago. I kid you not. Apparently, John Fetterman has raised $1 million in donations since last night. And I really think he's going to win. I think Fetterman is going to win because I think there are enough Republicans that hate Dr. Oz that they're just not going to turn out and vote. And we're literally going to elect, well, not me. I live in New Hampshire. I'm not going like condolences to those of you who live in Pennsylvania. I am very and deeply sorry, but you guys are going to elect Sloth from the Goonies to be your next senator. This is really and truly the land in which we live today. We have literal idiocracy on a Senate debate stage, and you guys expect me to take politics seriously? How does anyone take our political process seriously anymore? This is not a serious debate. We have a TV doctor and someone who can't even speak. And these are the two options for Senate. That is a 6-year term. That is supposed to be considered the more prestigious of the two houses. If this were a house race, I could kind of, sort of, maybe understand it. But Pennsylvania, are you shitting me? You have the entire state of Pennsylvania to choose from. And this is what our political process ends up with? If anyone wonders why I am not mounting a more serious campaign for governor of New Hampshire, it's because I cannot treat the political process with anything other than the absolute righteous indignation with which it deserves. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to watch this here debate. I hope you guys have alcohol. I sadly don't have alcohol. I just have coffee and water. And that's it. I did have some empanadas before this, though, so that was pretty nice. But anyway, that's a different story. So we're going to watch this debate, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to make fun of it, and I don't know, maybe find our way to come to some sort of closure with the obvious downfall that we are in our society. Yeah, exactly. Republicans could have had Kathy Barnett. If Kathy Barnett had been the nominee, I would feel a lot more comfortable about John Fetterman not getting elected. But, Magpie says, just because you aren't mounting a serious campaign for governor doesn't mean we can't mount a serious campaign on the like button. I agree, Magpie. Please go ahead and mount that like button for me, guys. I stream pretty much every day of the week at 5 o'clock on YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble, Gitter, Facebook, all the different platforms. But the chat is best on YouTube. So if you're looking for chat, if you're looking for an interactive experience, might I recommend you join me on YouTube. But if you want to go other places, that's fine too. Sometimes the chat picks up on the other platforms. But that's just the way it goes. But guys, before we jump into this here debate, just a couple of quick things. Now, listen, in case you guys didn't know, I do have a podcast. Like everyone and their mother has a podcast. I know that. But my Actively Unwoke podcast is up and running, and I've actually launched 3 new episodes this week because I took a little bit of a breather from it. So I wanted to come back and give you guys some extra content because I had a little bit of a break there. I don't have a regular schedule with which I launch like my podcasting content. It's basically when I have something to talk about, but I do try to keep it rather consistent. So there are 3 new episodes up. You can find those episodes at activelyunwoke.com/podcast. You can also subscribe on all major podcasting platforms. Just today, I launched an episode, episode 25. Please stop with the book banning. I did episode 24 yesterday, why Kanye West is being canceled by the woke left. And episode number 23, what we must do to fix the K through 12 schools. Episode 23 and 25 kind of go together. The Kanye West one is kind of a little bit of a one-off. I wanted to explain explicitly why he's being canceled because, pro tip, it wasn't because of what he said about the Jews. That was just an excuse. And I explained to you the woke left mentality and why they're canceling him and why they're just basically using that as an excuse to do something they were going to do anyway. You can listen to all these podcasts. All of my podcasts are archived at activelyunwoke.com/podcast. You can see they're all in the browser there. I do try to make these highly actionable. They're about 20 minutes long each. And so really practical tips about understanding the woke left, what they're trying to do to this country and how you can fight back to them or against them rather. And then you can subscribe on whatever I'm basically turning into John Fetterman right before your very eyes. It's a lack of sleep, I promise. I didn't have a stroke. I just didn't get that much sleep last night. But you can also subscribe on all major podcasting platforms and all that good stuff. I also want to let you know that I also do have a Substack that I post to very, very regularly. I actually have about 15 different Substacks, but the one I want to recommend is carlin.substack.com. This is where I write all of my Actively Unwoke content. I got some great articles up, like why they're trying to make life easier for pedophiles. I've got one up, Stop the Book Banning. That goes along with the podcast. It's a companion piece. I have a piece up about why the Communist Manifesto is obviously and clearly the basis for the 1619 Project. Lots of great content on the Substack. We've got stuff going up about the schools. This is something I also post to fairly regularly. So if you appreciate my work, please feel free to subscribe over there. I have some other Substacks as well that I can tell you about another time, but those are the resources that I'm going to recommend for right now. And if you appreciate all of the work that I'm doing to try to teach people about the woke left ideology, or if you just appreciate the fact that I am pretty consistent with my streaming and sometimes I make you laugh, sometimes I make you cry, sometimes I'll yell at you when you need it. Of course, always tough love. You can head over to activelyunwoke.com/support and you can sign up to be a monthly donor on my Patreon, anywhere from $5 a month all the way up to $250 a month, depending on what perks you want. If you don't want to do that, you can get some cool swag and stuff like that. But if you don't want to do that, I totally understand. And I would recommend my Locals community. Locals is the place where I do tend to spend the most time. And you can sign up there for $5 a month, $50 a year, or you can make a one-time gift. You can also become a paid supporter on my Substack if you value what I'm doing. All of my articles on Substack are free. I've got links to Actively Unwoke and the Red Pill Diaries. I have a couple other Substacks that I'm working on right now. More on that another time. But if you want to support me financially, you can buy paid subscriptions through there. You're not obligated to. That's just a nice little extra if you appreciate all the time and energy that I put into trying to provide you guys with the best unwoke content on the internet, certainly the most consistent unwoke content on the internet, and the only content where you're getting highly actionable tips and advice on how to fight back that I've seen lately. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only one actually doing content like this. But if there's other people doing it, let me know because I would love to talk to them. I think that would be great. Now, what do you get when you become a supporter? Because you do get perks. Number one, you get access to 2 weekly Zoom calls with me every single Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And every single Wednesday at noon, we just wrapped up a 3.5 hour Zoom call earlier. They're private. They are unrecorded. It is a safe space to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I have the best community in the world. They're the ones that keep me sane. I like to think that I help maybe keep them sane as well. And so you will get access to that when you support my work. You will also get access to the supporter Discord, which includes things like movie night. We're doing very regular movie nights now. And actually, we've been doing a movie night almost every single week this month. This coming Sunday, we are watching Poltergeist. It is in the supporter Discord, and you will get access to that when you become a supporter on Patreon, Locals, and all that good stuff. All right. Lastly, I want to go over my rules of the chat. My rules are simple. This is not a free-for-all. I am not Nick Arcada's chat. I am not Tim Pool's chat. You can't just say whatever you want here, all right? We got a couple of rules that everyone needs to follow to make it nice for everyone. Number one, don't be a dick. Now, you can make fun of people on the video that we're watching. I don't care if you make fun of John Fetterman or Dr. Oz. That's not my concern. But you're not going to be a dick to me, and you're not going to be a dick to the people in the chat. Let's just keep it, just take it down a notch, man. If you're going to get angry, direct your anger in the right direction, which is the people in the debate that we're going to be watching. Number two, no whining. I can't take it. I'm too old for this shit. And I'm certainly too old to have people who are older than me whining at me in a chat on YouTube. So let's just knock it off. If I tell you not to do something, don't come back to me and whine and complain, because it's not going to work out well for you. I promise. That's it. Those are all the rules. Don't be a dick and no whining. And everyone is going to get along just fine. And it's all going to be kosher. All right, guys, mount that like button if you are ready to start watching the debate. I'm nervous. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do this. Oh God, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I so masochistic in the content that I consume? All right, let's get this party started.
A Senate race, now a spectacle.
He chose money over his conscience.
My opponent, John Fetterman, by his own admission, grew up in luxury and privilege.
Insults stealing the spotlight while voters want a voice on the issues.
I'm thinking about women's rights.
Unity of the people.
I'm looking for civility.
I think public health is most important.
Our leaders are not leaders at all.
Tonight, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman and Dr. Mehmet Oz face to face.
How the hell did John Fetterman become the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania? Is there anyone from Pennsylvania in the chat who can explain this to me? Even before the stroke, how the hell did John Fetterman become the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania? Were there no other applicants for the job? Was he like that guy that everyone's like, I just want to have a beer with him? Was it the same way that George W. Bush got elected? I don't know. Let me know in the chat. I have no idea.
For the first and only time, both men looking to prove they have what it takes to represent the people of Pennsylvania.
Send Dr. Oz back to New Jersey.
I stand for Pennsylvania values, and I'm proud of it.
Live from the ABC 27 studios in Harrisburg, this is the Pennsylvania U.S. Senate debate.
It's also dramatic, just like the weather.
Welcome
when there's
to
a storm.
Debate Night in America. I'm Leland Vittert from News Nation. The stakes tonight could not be higher, not only for the Keystone State, but for the country. Control of the U.S. Senate for either party runs through Pennsylvania. Dennis Owens, WHTM political reporter and anchor here in Harrisburg, along with Lisa Sylvester from WPXI in Pittsburgh, will moderate tonight's debate. We want to welcome our viewers watching tonight from across the country on News Nation. Voters can watch this debate in all 67 Pennsylvania counties on 9 television stations serving the Commonwealth. Before we get started, let's go over tonight's rules. Mr. Fetterman, Mr. Oz, you will have 60 seconds.
I just want to say that if Eric Gerhardt had been included in this debate, who is a libertarian running for Senate, it probably would have been a significantly less shit show. If the libertarian candidate for Senate had been included, like they damn well should have been, this probably would have been much less of a train wreck. And guess what? People would have had a sane option. I don't know why we just can't make it a habit of including everyone who's on the fucking ballot in the debates. It seems pretty like, you know, a simple solution to me. If you don't like Dr. Oz and you don't like Sloth from the Goonies, you have a third option. There is a libertarian running for Senate in Pennsylvania. His name is Eric Gerhardt. He's a really good guy. Vote for him. You have other options.
To answer each question. If there's a follow-up question or rebuttal, you will have up to 30 seconds. Each candidate will also have 90 seconds for a closing statement. When your time is up, you'll hear this bell. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Dennis and Lisa.
Thank you, Leland. Good evening, candidates who moments ago just met for the first time. We're happy to have you here. Welcome to our audience watching at home, on air, online, and on News Nation. And we encourage everyone who is watching tonight to share your thoughts on social media.
Is there not a live studio audience?
Remember to use the hashtag PA Senate Debate.
And you may notice these large monitors that are behind us. This is part of our closed captioning system. It was requested by John Fetterman to help him process the questions that we are asking him tonight, and approved by both campaigns, and both candidates can see the monitors.
One of the screens will show only the questions being asked tonight. The second screen will caption the questions and responses from them at odds. We have live, experienced captioners in studio to ensure we are as accurate as possible in what's sure to be a fast-paced program.
And just a note, for those of you using closed captioning at home, the captions you see are not tied to the captions that the candidates will see here tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. With that, let's get started. Mr. Fetterman, we're going to begin with you. Your political experience includes serving as the mayor of Braddock, a small borough near Pittsburgh, and one term as lieutenant governor. You're running for a seat that could decide the balance of power in Washington. What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody.
Wait, what? Did he just wish everyone good night? Oh, God.
To serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania. Here's a man that spent more than $20 million of his own money to try to buy that seat. I'm also having to talk about something called the Oz rule, that if he's on TV, he's lying. He did that during his career on his TV show. He's done that during his campaign about lying about our record here. And he's also lying probably during.
No. This is a joke. You are shitting me. This is a joke. This is just an opening statement. He could have memorized an opening statement. Is he aware that senators, like, need to make speeches? Is he aware that public speaking is, like, gonna be a key part of what he's expected to do as a senator? You have got to be kidding me.
This debate. And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up. And this campaign is all about, to me, is about fighting for.
So his opening line for why he should be elected senator of Pennsylvania is, I had a stroke, and so don't mind me if I say stupid things because I had a stroke and you're a bigot if you don't vote for me, bigot. Oh my God.
Everyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that needs to get back up and fighting for all forgotten communities all across Pennsylvania that also got knocked down, that needs to get back up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Oz, you are a doctor, a businessman, and television personality. But this is your first run for elected office.
You're not wrong.
What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania? You have 60 seconds.
I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Washington keeps getting it wrong with extreme positions. I want to bring civility balance, all the things that you want to see, because you've been telling it to me on the campaign trail. And by doing that, we can bring us together in a way that has not been done of late. Democrats, Republicans talking to each other. John Fetterman takes everything to an extreme, and those extreme positions hurt us all. Let's take crime as an example, because it's been such a big problem. Maureen Faulkner accompanied me today to the studio. You know that her husband was a police officer in Philadelphia, was brutally murdered. John Fetterman, during this crime wave, has been trying to get as many murderers convicted and sentenced to life in prison out of jail as possible, including people who are similar to the man who murdered her husband. He does it without with the rest of the parole board agreeing. He's doing it without the families on board. These radical positions.
All right, I'm going to be honest. I'm not impressed with Dr. Oz either. This is his opening statement. Crime is bad. No shit. Like, I'm not impressed with him. Dr. Oz has been on TV for like half of his adult life. And you're telling me he's getting nervous and he's not even speaking clearly. He's speaking too fast. He's stumbling over his words. And like his opening statement again is like, elect me because crime is bad. Dude, get it together.
And beyond crime, to wanting to legalize all drugs, to open the border, to raising our taxes. I want Washington to be civil again. Where you need it to be less radical. John Fetterman, unfortunately, would bring that.
Mr. Oz, thank you. Lisa.
All right, gentlemen, on to the economy. Pennsylvanians are struggling to put food on the table and gas in their cars. Our Next Star Emerson College The Hill poll shows the economy and inflation are the biggest concerns for voters. 39% of them listed that as the top issue. Beginning with you, Mr. Oz, you have blamed President Biden and reckless Democratic spending for the inflation crisis, but voters would like to hear your specific plan to cut spending. Please explain in 60 seconds.
Well, if you ask the U.S. government, they'll tell you they have 4% waste and fraud. Now, I've traveled over the Commonwealth and spoken to countless people. There was a lady in Beaver County at a county fair who told me with fear in her heart that she wanted to provide food for her son's highly nutritious chicken she wanted. She couldn't afford it anymore. That's a big problem. If we've got 4% waste and fraud, we ought to be able to take care of that. John Fetterman's, however, response continually is to raise taxes.
No,
he raised taxes as mayor.
No.
He tried.
I'm sorry. This is a bullshit thing that politicians do, and I really don't like it. Dr. Oz just had an opportunity to say, here is what I will do. And instead, what did he do? He said, people have problems. I've heard those problems. I've talked to people with problems, and John Fetterman sucks and won't fix the problem. This is the mistake that Republicans make every single time. Dr. Oz is literally debating, like, what is the word for moron in like Brave New World? He's debating a fucking gamma level moron from Brave New World. Dr. Oz could there is no contest between these two people. He should be able to come off as calm and intelligent, and he has had now an opportunity to say, here is what I will do. Here is what I believe. Here is how I can help solve your problems. What did he do? He didn't do that. People have problems. I've heard about those problems. I think those problems are bad. You know who's not going to solve those problems? John Fetterman, because John Fetterman's an extremist. But in that statement, he never said what he was going to do. This is what Republicans do every single time, and it is why they deserve to lose, even when they are debating sloth from the Goonies. Because even when they have that softball, they still can't do it. They still can't bring it home.
Tried to raise taxes as a lieutenant governor, 46%. That's a big tax rate. He supported Joe Biden's recent tax rate increase, and he's done that without paying his own taxes 67 times. I'll say that again. He hasn't paid his own taxes 67 times, but he's raising mine and yours. Those are radical positions. They're extreme. They're out of touch with the values of Pennsylvanians. And I can make the difficult decisions, as you do in the operating room as a surgeon. I'll make them cutting our budget as well.
Well, that's true enough,
to make sure we
Savritz.
don't have to raise taxes on a population already desperately in pain from the high inflation rate.
Mr. Fetterman, I will allow a 15-second rebuttal. He has specifically said you have not paid your taxes and that you want to raise taxes on Americans. How do you respond?
Absolutely. The Oz rule, of course, he's lying. It was helping two students 17 years ago to help them buy their own homes. They didn't pay the bills, and it got her paid, and it has never been an issue in any of the campaign before. It was all about nonprofit.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman.
That wasn't even a coherent
Continuing with
answer.
you, Mr. Fetterman, your opponent has criticized Democratic spending, as you heard. Has the Biden administration overspent? And if so, where do you think spending should be cut? You have 60 seconds.
No, here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about inflation, right now, because it's a tax on working families, and Dr. Oz can't possibly understand what that is like. He has 10 gigantic mansions. We must push back against corporate greed. We must make sure that we're also pushing back against price gouging as well, too. We also be able to make more in Pennsylvania, make more in America. When he had a choice to make his merchandise, the Oz label is on, he made it all in China. Who can you believe that can fight against inflation and pushing back against corporate greed, or somebody that is choosing working in China versus over American workers?
All right. I will allow 50.
I mean, hang on. I have stuff to say about that. Savritz, too much thought traffic in this guy's brain. Yeah, Savritz, I might argue not enough thought traffic in that guy's brain. So John Fetterman didn't answer the question. There's it's a fair question to ask if John Fetterman even understood the question, because it seemed like what was happening there is John Fetterman had memorized some sort of talking point about inflation, and he just entered into, did you guys notice the pause at the beginning where they said you have 60 seconds, and then there was a really awkward 5-second pause, and then he was like, inflation is bad, Dr. Oz is bad, China bad, Dr. Oz, China, therefore Dr. Oz bad. Oh my God. And by the way, if I were to, if stamping out cronyism and that sort of thing were really my biggest priority, which I actually think there are much bigger priorities than that, but that's another topic for another day. If that were my biggest priority, do you know who I want in charge of doing that? Someone who's done it before, someone who's gamed the system before. Because if you've worked within the system, then you know everything wrong with the system and you know how to fix the system. You can't blame people for working within the system to game it, to be honest, because that's what you're trying to do when you're working within the system. But then you elect them to a position where they have power and they're like, I hate this about the system. This is what I had to do to survive. This is what I had to do to beat other people. And you allow them to fix it if they can. A lot of times it's just really unfixable. But this is hard to watch. I feel deeply uncomfortable watching John Fetterman.
15-second rebuttal to his comments that you have been making things in China. Mr. Oz.
I've been trying to talk about policy issues with the people of Pennsylvania. As a doctor, I listen to their ideas and I want to talk about them. When John Fetterman brings up houses, the irony is he didn't pay for his own house. He got it for $1 from his sister. And he hasn't been able to earn a living on his own. He's lived off his parents. So
I also kind of think, by the way, if I'm being more fair and balanced than Fox News, I think it's actually bullshit that Dr. Oz keeps bringing up that John Fetterman bought his house for $1 from his sister. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, I say this not being an advocate for John Fetterman, thinking John Fetterman is a grade A fucking moron. But there are a lot of people who get their houses by buying them for $1 from their family. That is the way that houses are passed along in families, in many families, especially in middle income families. That's how a lot of people get their first house. And so can I really fault John Fetterman for buying his house for $1 from his sister? No, because that's the way that things are done. And I don't think that he should be shamed for that. And I sure as shit don't think that people who have done that with their families should feel ashamed for doing that, because that's how you build and create wealth. It's actually a positive thing. It's not a negative thing.
It's not a topic that we should be debating on the stage. We should be talking about crime and inflation, the issues that are hurting Pennsylvanians that they're talking about at their kitchen table.
That's it. He got his Pennsylvania house from his own inlays from $1.
Mr. Fetterman, we have to continue on. We'll continue on with a follow-up question to you, Mr. Oz. This one is just for you. You tweeted in August that you will never stop fighting to lower gas prices for Pennsylvanians. Does that include supporting a suspension of the federal gas tax? You have 30 seconds.
I'm supportive of reducing taxes, but we want to be thoughtful about the long-term game plan to get gas taxes down and frankly, all energy prices down. I have gone around the Commonwealth. I've witnessed people say, I'm not going on vacation this year because I can't afford to pay to take my trailer to the campground. They can't even get there. What we have to do is ensure that we don't have increased inflation. And the best way to do that is reduce gas prices. John Fetterman has gone after the energy industry, called it a stain on Pennsylvania, and argued we have to ban fracking. That is disconnected from Pennsylvanians.
All right. I know we're going to come up to a really heinous clip here. This is actually one of the few clips that I've seen. So we'll let this play out. But I just want to answer Matthew's super chat. Matthew says, Fetterman reminds me of Cyanide and Happiness, John Bateman cartoons. Oz just exists. How these are the two options that Pennsylvania ended up with, it just boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. All right. Gird your loins.
Thank you, Mr. Oz. We will get to the issue of fracking later on in this discussion.
Later.
But
Never
meantime,
mind.
turning back to you, Mr. Fetterman, for a follow-up. In an op-ed for the Wilkes-Barre Times Leader, you wrote, quote, "It is time we crack down on the big price gouging corporations that are making record profits while jacking up prices for all of us." How do you plan to do this, sir? You mentioned going after price gouging corporations. How do you plan to do this? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. We have to keep pushing back on that. And he would never make that choice to fight for families here in Pennsylvania. You know, he has never met an oil company that he doesn't swipe right about. You know, he has never been able to stand up for working families all across Pennsylvania. You know, we must push back. Inflation has hurt Americans and Pennsylvania's families, and it has given the oil companies record profits.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Turning to the next issue, Dennis.
The minimum wage in Pennsylvania and at the national level currently sits at $7.25 an hour and has not been increased since 2009. Each of our neighboring states has raised minimum wages. You see them there on your screen, including New Jersey at $13 an hour and West Virginia at $8.75. But Pennsylvania has not followed suit.
All right, hang on before we get to the question. Dr. K, does this count as a comedy or tragedy? This is a tragedy. I'm sorry. This entire debacle of a debate on both sides. Yes, Fetterman is bad. Yes, Fetterman is probably worse, but I'm sorry. Oz is nothing to write home about either. This entire affair is a gross indictment of the entire political system. I want to encourage everyone in Pennsylvania to look into the libertarian running for Senate, because you are selling your soul to a system that will sell you out, stab you in the back, stomp all over you if you vote for either of these candidates. Like, there has never been a better time for people to give the finger to the entire system. And the way you do that is by voting for the libertarian. Because the fact that either of these two people got nominated for Senate in the state of Pennsylvania by a major party is one of the most ridiculous things I have ever seen in my life.
First question is for you, Mr. Fetterman. Do you support raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour? Why or why not? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I think it's a disgrace at $7.25 an hour. And how can a man, with 10 gigantic mansions, has unwilling to talk about a willing wage for anybody? Imagine a single mom with 2 children, trying to raise with them, realizing making $31,000 a year, $15 an hour. I believe every work has dignity and every paycheck must have dignity in it as well. True. I've always supported a living wage, and we make sure that everyone has economic security.
I have a follow-up for you, Mr. Fetterman. What do you say to small business owners who have told us that if the minimum wage were increased to $15 an hour, it would put them out of business. You have 30 seconds.
No, we all have to make sure that everyone that works is able to, that's the most American bargain, that if you work full time, you should be able to live in dignity as well. True. And I believe they haven't had any businesses being you can't have businesses being subsidized by not paying individuals that just simply can't afford to pay their own way.
Wait,
Mr.
what?
Fetterman, thank you.
What? I'm sorry. What? He considers not raising the minimum wage to be subsidizing businesses? Tell me you've never run a business without telling me you've never run a business. Does this guy really just think that businesses can print money, as much money as they want, to pay their staff as high a wage as they want? Oh my God.
You, Mr. Oz, turning to you. Do you support raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour? Why or why not? You have 60 seconds.
I think market forces have already driven up the minimum wage. I was with a hotel worker actually here in Harrisburg a few months ago, and he was telling me how hard it was to live on the $15 an hour that he was getting paid. John Fetterman shoots too low. We want much more money than that. And there are many ways to achieve that. But John Fetterman thinks the minimum wage is his weekly allowance from his parents. He's not really cognizant of the real challenges of business owners who've got to balance that with employees. Thankfully, we have a solution. And John, you didn't answer the question. You can't put businesses out of commission in order to pay more wages, because the wages will go to zero, which is John Fetterman's radical plan if you really follow to conclusion. Here's what I would do. We have one of the richest energy states in the country. I believe if we could unleash the energy beneath our feet here in Pennsylvania, there'd be plenty of money to go around. We'd have increased wages, a more reason for students to take vocational classes to be able to learn trades, which I'm strongly supportive of. We'd also be able to pipe that gas, improve our economy, and reduce inflation. That's a plan that works, and it's humble enough that I can say broadly.
Thank you. I want to give you, Mr. Fetterman, a 15-second follow-up.
Hang on. I've ragged on Dr. Oz a lot in this debate, so I'll say this is the first time that he has actually presented a plan for here is what we should do. Okay, fine, great. Do more of that. And I just want to comment on this too. Where did this chat go? Hang on. I should have started. Where did it go? Hang on. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. I want to respond to some. Okay. As a fellow Pennsylvanian, if Fetterman is elected, I will lose faith in the mental stability of my state. Well, here's the problem. Your Republican candidate is no one to write home about. Dr. Oz is a horrible candidate. You guys elected a horrible candidate. And so you're choosing between Sloth from the Goonies and someone who, quite frankly, isn't that much better than a TV. You're choosing from a TV doctor and Sloth from the Goonies. And neither of them are good. So my faith is already lost in Pennsylvania just based on the fact that these are the two that you guys have to choose from. And again, I just want to, before we hear the answer, I just want to make sure you guys understand this. There is a libertarian running for Senate in Pennsylvania. His name is Eric Gerhardt. You can find him at Eric, ERIK 4 PA, and you can learn about his platform, and you can learn about what he has to say. And I promise you, he is more articulate than both of these people. Dr. Oz will not suck less. I think you're not the smartest, the brightest crayon in the box if you think that Dr. Oz is going to suck less. They're both going to suck equally. And if you guys don't, I just don't know what to tell you. If you buy into a reality where you are forced to choose between a TV doctor and Sloth from the Goonies, and you don't seriously consider voting for the libertarian because you're a tribalist and you can't stand for the other tribe to win, then you are the problem. I'm sorry. I'm speaking to everyone who's like, Dr. Oz sucks and he's not a good candidate, but I'm going to vote for him anyway. You are the problem. You are the problem. You are the reason that the people of Pennsylvania have two shitty options for Senate on that debate stage. You don't get points from me just because your candidate can speak kind of coherently. And I emphasize kind of, because he's not even speaking coherently either. Everyone in Pennsylvania should look into Eric Gerhardt, read his positions, read his platform. If he had been in this debate, he probably would have been the smartest and most articulate person in it. Vote for someone that actually is a responsible adult. Because the two people that we're watching on the stage right now are not responsible adults. Are you fucking shitting me? This is why Republicans elect horrible candidates. He needs to lose a baseball hat if he wants to be taken seriously. You nominated a fucking TV doctor. You nominated a TV doctor. You take a fucking seat. The fact that this is reality and that Republicans are like, I can't, like, I hope Republicans lose so bad. I hope Fetterman wins so bad, because it will be exactly and precisely what Republicans deserve. It will be exactly and precisely what they deserve, to lose to this moron every day of the week.
He just said about you.
No, again, it's remarkable. He hasn't really had any answer that he actually had about that in his. He doesn't want to talk about having somebody having a living wage and having somebody able to survive again.
And I want to come back to you now, Mr. Oz, for a quick follow-up. What do you say to those Pennsylvanians that he just spoke of that are trying to survive on $7.25 an hour, which is less than all of our neighbors? You have 30 seconds.
Oh, I don't think you should have to survive on $7.25 an hour. I want the minimum wage up as high as it can go. I want to highlight that I have an agenda for prosperity. Unlike John Fetterman, I want us all getting paid a lot more than $15. And I answered your question directly in a way that would preserve business owners, job creators, so they thrive, and we'd have lots more employees entering the workforce and then prospering, getting paid $25, $35, $45 an hour. But we're never going to get there if we don't unleash our energy. And John Fetterman's stubbornness on calling it a stain on Pennsylvania is an insult to those workers.
To be clear, you said you want people making a lot more, but that's not through a federal law of minimum wage. That's through market forces.
Market forces should drive it up anyway, and it's already done that.
Thank you.
You know, you should be able to get paid much more than $15 an hour.
Thank you. Lisa.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Another big issue for voters is abortion. Mr. Oz, we will begin with you. You say that you're pro-life, but you do support abortion exceptions in the cases of rape, incest, and to protect the life of the mother. Aside from those three exceptions, should abortion be banned in America? 60 seconds.
There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. As a physician, I've been in the room when there's some difficult conversations happening. I don't want the federal government involved with that at all. I want women, doctors, local political.
This is the attitude that leads to Republicans continuing to vote for people that are going to stab them in the back and do nothing. I just can't. All of the candidates suck, and I don't even really like the Republican I'm voting for, but they're so much better than the Democrats. Every Republican with this attitude deserves to lose. You all deserve to lose. You don't stand for anything. You have no values. You have no principles. You are electing candidates that are literally going to go into the Senate and do nothing. They're going to do nothing. And then when the next term comes around for you to elect them again, you're going to go, you didn't do anything, but I just can't risk voting for the other guy because things are just so bad right now. And then you know what's going to happen? They're going to get elected again, and they're going to do nothing again, and things are going to get worse. And then their term's going to come up again, and you're going to vote for them again. And you're going to say, I don't really like them and they don't do anything, but I just can't risk voting for the other guy because things are going to get worse. And then things are going to keep getting worse because they're going to get elected again and they're going to do nothing. Do you guys understand how you're doing this to yourselves by electing shitty, horrible candidates? If you keep voting for candidates that suck, and I don't care if they're on your tribe or not, you deserve to be in the position that you are in because you voted for it. You are electing these people. An awful lot of people in Pennsylvania voted for Dr. Oz. It was a bad decision. You guys could have had Kathy Barnett, but you didn't show up. So now you're stuck with this. And he ain't going to do anything for you. He is in this purely and exclusively to enrich himself. He isn't going to do anything. I just don't know how people don't get this. You are in the position you are in because you keep voting for bad candidates. And you make excuses. And then you wonder why things don't change. And you wonder why things just keep getting worse. Because you're voting for it. You're voting for your own demise.
Political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive, to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves. Contrast that with my opponent, John Fetterman, who on this debate stage said that he would demand federally mandated.
Hang on, I want to take this super chat from Emily. Both running in Utah suck. I'm so glad I have a choice to vote for James Hansen, the Libertarian running. Vote for the Libertarians, guys. Give the finger to the two parties. Because it doesn't, here's a secret that the Republicans don't want to acknowledge. It doesn't matter if you elect Republicans because they don't do anything and they continue to let the Democrats do whatever they want to do. So saying, I just have to vote for Dr. Oz because he's just the lesser of two evils, even though I know he's just going to throw me under the bus and I know he's not going to do anything and I know he's just saying the sweet nothings in my ear that I want to hear and he doesn't really mean any of it, but I just have to. You're letting the Democrats win when you do that. Even if Dr. Oz wins, you still lose because Dr. Oz is going to do nothing. The Democrats are still going to steamroll everything they want. By the way, Joe Biden's still going to be president no matter what, so it doesn't even matter anyway. It is better for Republicans to lose in 2022 and possibly learn themselves a lesson than it is for them to win now and then lose in 2024, which is, by the way, exactly what will happen. If Republicans get the red wave that they are looking for now, and I don't think they're going to get it, but if they do, let's play in the realm of fantasy for a second. What's going to happen is that they are going to get complacent. They're going to say, we're the silent majority. We just come out and vote, and that's all we need to do. They aren't going to do anything up to the election in 2024, and then they're going to lose, and they're going to wonder why. Vote for the Libertarian. If you don't start changing the way you vote, nothing is going to change. And as Rick says, the evil of two lessers, still evil. Still evil. Still bad.
Rules for all states they'd have to follow that would allow abortion at 38 weeks on the delivery table, and he would force it to be subsidized by taxpayers across the country no matter what their personal beliefs are. That's radical. That's extreme. That is out of touch with what the average voter in Pennsylvania believes is appropriate. Now, ironically, John Fetterman has been running ads on this topic, dishonest ads. I need to correct the record. They were so bad, they got pulled off television stations. Even on this station, he was running dishonest ads that I had pulled off.
Voters
I
don't
haven't
care.
had a single ad pulled down. My ads tell the truth. John Fetterman's are a fiction of his imagination.
All right. I'm going to let Mr. Fetterman respond specifically about the ads being pulled off the air, and then we will return to you, Mr. Oz. Mr. Fetterman.
Yeah, I want to look into the face of every woman in Pennsylvania. You know, if you believe that the choice of your reproductive freedom belongs with Dr. Oz, then you have a choice. But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for. Roe v. Wade, for me, should be the law. He celebrated when Roe v. Wade went down, and my campaign would fight for Roe v. Wade, and if given the opportunity, to codify it into law.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman.
He just stopped
Going back to you, I
mid-sentence.
want to circle back to some.
He just stopped mid-sentence. That was not a complete sentence. I mean, none of that made sense. It was broken English at best, but like, he literally just stopped mid-sentence. And he did. He was singing. He was like, it was like, there was a rhythm. It was like he was singing a song. I want to watch that again. Watch it. He's singing a song.
Yeah. I want to look into the face of every woman in Pennsylvania. You know, if you believe that the choice of your reproductive freedom belongs with Dr. Oz, then you have a choice. But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for. Roe v. Wade, for me, should be the law. He celebrated when Roe v. Wade went down, and my campaign would fight for Roe v. Wade, and if given the opportunity, to codify it into law.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Going back to you, I want to circle back to something that you said, Mr. Oz. You mentioned the decision to regulate abortion should be something that is left up to the states. Now, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has introduced a federal bill to ban abortion after 15 weeks. I know that you've been asked about this question before. If the vote were held today, you were elected senator, you're on the Senate floor, the clerk calls you, there's a roll call vote. Are you a yay or a nay? How would you vote on the Lindsey Graham bill? You have 30 seconds.
Lisa, I don't even need 30 seconds. I'll give you a bigger answer. I am not going to support federal rules that block the ability of states to do what they wish to do. The abortion decision should be left up to states, and specifically when John Fetterman—
You roll with Doug Mastriano.
John, when I'm done, John, you'll have your turn, John.
What the hell was that?
Continue, Mr. Oz.
What did that have to do with anything? You roll with Doug Mastriano? Was John Fetterman even responding to anything then, or did he just burst out in the middle of a... Oh, I want to watch that again. Hang on. What the fuck just happened?
Or a nay. How would you vote on the Lindsey Graham bill? You have 30 seconds.
Lisa, I don't even need 30 seconds. I'll give you a bigger answer. I am not going to support federal rules that block the ability of states to do what they wish to do. The abortion decision should be left up to states, and specifically when John Fetterman—
You roll with Doug Mastriano.
John, when I'm done, John, you'll have your turn, John.
John is staging a protest, apparently.
I've been very clear on my desire as a physician not to interfere with how states decide. So when John purposely, knowingly misrepresents that to women, he scares them. He's purposely trying to alarm them, and the fear-mongering isn't working. Running tens of millions of dollars of ads claiming that I'm against all abortions when he knows that's not right, claiming that I'm going to be strict with Pennsylvania when he knows that's not honest.
Is Dr. Oz saying that he's not pro-life? So Republicans, you're telling me you're voting for a pro-choice rhino? That's who you're voting for in Pennsylvania? By the way, Chris Sununu, governor of New Hampshire, is also very, very, very not pro-life. Chris Sununu in New Hampshire supports abortion till birth, but Republicans don't mind that so much when it's on their tribe. It seems to me that an awful lot of people in Pennsylvania are voting in a deeply unprincipled way based on what they think is best for their team, rather than based on any sort of rationality at all. I know you guys probably thought that I was going to just be like, Fetterman is stupid, Fetterman is stupid, Fetterman is stupid, and he is. He's a moron. But if you think I think that Dr. Oz is much better, he is not. He is absolutely not. He doesn't even align with your values, but you still voted for him anyway. And this is how you wind up with horrible candidates.
I can't be any clearer that I've been on the stage today. John Fetterman, if you just hear that one story today, I'd be really happy. But I know you're not going to, because you're going to go right back to telling the fables that you believe.
Mr. Oz, I want a 15-second clarification.
And they're just bickering too.
That you would leave it up to the states, that the federal government
They're literally
does not
just
have a role
bickering with
here.
each other.
So are you saying you would not vote for the Lindsey Graham bill?
Any bill that violates what I said, which is the federal government interfering with the state rule on abortion, I would vote against. What I feel strongly about is that women in Pennsylvania understand what I'm saying and not believe that someone who's taken an extreme position like John Fetterman represents them, because most women do not believe that we should, at a federal level, codify 38 weeks of permission to have an abortion and have taxpayers pay for it.
So a yes or no on the Lindsey Graham bill?
I think I've answered it very, very clearly 3 times, Lisa.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Oz. Turning
Why
to
won't
you,
he answer
Mr.
yes or
Fetterman,
no?
you have frequently stated your belief that abortion should be safe and legal. Do you support any limits on when a woman can have an abortion? Please explain in 60 seconds.
You know, what I support on Roe v. Wade. That was the
He
law
sung
of the
a song
land for
again.
50 years. He celebrated when it fell down, and I would fight to reestablish on Roe v. Wade. That's what I run on. That's what I believe, and I've always.
Why does he keep saying Roe v. Wade like he's singing a song? And by the way, he's literally memorized these talking points, and you can tell he's memorized the talking points because he's just saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And the same cadence with Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade. He is singing.
Believe that the choice belongs women and their doctors, and he believes that the choice should be with him or Republican legislators all across this nation.
All right.
I'm sorry, I must correct that. Once again, he's misrepresented what I've said, but he also said something very dishonest. On this debate stage, he said very specifically in his primary debate, when he was still debating, that he would support 38 weeks of mandated rules by the federal government that would prevent any state from blocking it. So that's not Roe versus
That's
Wade.
not true. I support Roe v. Wade. That's the simple.
Oh my
You
God!
said specifically you would support
All right,
a
thank you,
federal
Mr.
rule
Oz.
on 38
Mr. Oz,
weeks.
thank you.
But how
Thank
could-
you.
That's, I think it's important that John at least acknowledge that he's not honest here, because you said the
All right,
opposite
Mr.
on
Oz,
TV.
we must continue on. Mr. Fetterman, turning to you, we have a follow-up question. Would you support allocating federal funds to transport women who live in states where abortion is banned to states where they can get one, and why? 30 seconds.
I would. I would, because I believe abortion rights is a universal right for all women in.
Can someone please make a clip of every time that John Fetterman just says Roe v. Wade? I just want the clips of Roe v. Wade. That's it. That's what I want. I want the clips of Roe v. Wade, and I want them set to song. Because he really can't say it without singing a song.
In America, I believe that abortion is healthcare, and I believe that that is a choice that belongs with each woman and their doctor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Turning to the next issue, Dennis.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's turn to what has become one of the key themes of this race: fitness to serve. For these
Oh, thank God for
individual
that.
questions, there will be no rebuttals allowed.
Oh,
Mr.
my
Fetterman, we
God.
begin with you. You suffered, as you mentioned a moment ago, a stroke 4 days before the May primary. Last week, you released this note from your doctor saying you can work full duty in public office, but you have not released your detailed medical records surrounding your stroke. Mr. Fetterman, will you pledge tonight to release those records in the interest of transparency? You have 60 seconds.
No. To me, for transparency is about showing up. I'm here today to have a
No.
debate. I have, speeches in front of 3,000 people in Montgomery County, all across Pennsylvania, big crowds. I believe if my doctor believes that I'm fit to serve, and that's what I believe is
That was the
appropriate.
question.
And now with 2 weeks before the election, I have run a campaign, and I've been very transparent about being very open about the fact we're in use captioning. And I believe that, again, my doctors, the real doctors that I believe in, they all believe that I'm ready to be served.
Follow up. I didn't hear you say you would release.
They all believe I'm ready to be served. And by the way, he didn't say he would release his medical records. He said, my doctors all believe I'm ready to be served.
Release your full medical records. Why not? You have 30 seconds.
Now, again, my Dr. L believes that I'm fit to be serving, and that's what I believe is where I'm standing.
Okay, Mr. Fetterman, thank you. Mr. Oz, you have built a lucrative career around medicine, but you've been criticized even by some fellow physicians for promoting, quote, unproven, ill-advised, and at times potentially dangerous treatments. What is your response to that? You have 60 seconds.
One of the great blessings of traveling around Pennsylvania is you run into people who have watched the show. They thank me very much for giving them life-saving advice on chronic issues like high blood pressure or dealing with their anxiety. The show did very well because it provided high-quality information that empowered people, which was exactly what I want to do when I'm a senator. Give people the power. Let them make decisions for their well-being. Now, John Fetterman's approach to health is a very dangerous one. He believes we should socialize medicine. He embraced this with Bernie Sanders, who he endorsed. The two candidates called themselves the two most progressive people in America. When you have socialized medicine, Dennis, you shut down the ability of people to get access to healthcare.
This is a good
Doctors
answer.
stop practicing. There are no medications available. The lines
Good
get
answer,
long.
Oz.
It's a disaster, and it puts people at risk. So I don't believe we should allow socialized medicine, the abolition of all private healthcare insurance in America, and radical positions like the ones taken by John Fetterman make him too extreme to serve.
Yes,
if we're going to
Phil.
bring balance to Washington, you got to bring people who understand the ramifications. Even Joe Biden called John Fetterman's idea, I'll quote him, preposterous.
Mr. Fetterman, I'm going to let you respond in just a minute, but I have a follow-up for you first, Mr. Oz. Did you or your company make a profit from promoting those products? You have 30 seconds.
I never sold weight loss products as described in those commercials. It's a television show, like this is a television show. So people can run commercials on the shows, and that's a perfectly appropriate and very transparent process. I ruffled a lot of feathers on my show because I told people the truth, and I'm proud of that. I'll do the exact same thing as a U.S. senator. But there's no way to defend what John Fetterman has done with socialized medicine. That is a radical departure from what we in America have accepted.
I
A relationship between
you.
John, you'll have your turn. John, let me finish.
Respond to that.
There must be a relationship between a doctor and a patient, and that's what I would direct patients to do.
Thank you. Mr. Fetterman, he accused you of socialized medicine, supporting socialized medicine. What is your response?
Yeah, again, it's the Oz rule. He's on TV and he's lying. I never supported any of that thing. You know, he keeps talking about Bernie Sanders. You know, 3 years ago, he was on his show and he hugged him and he said, "I love this guy." You know what? Why don't you pretend that you live in Vermont instead of Pennsylvania and run against Bernie Sanders? Because all you can do is talk about Bernie Sanders, because my truth is that healthcare is a basic fundamental right. And I believe in expanding that. And I believe about fighting for healthcare, the kind of healthcare that saved my life.
Wait. So Oz says that John Fetterman wants to socialize medicine. John Fetterman says, I have to respond to that. Oz rule, always lies. And then he goes on to say, healthcare is a human right. How is that different than you wanting to socialize medicine, John? What does healthcare is a human right mean? Does it mean you want universal healthcare, which is, wait for it, socialized medicine? Grandma Nay, you got so much catching up to do.
Was dishonest. He explicitly supported socialized
Mr. Oz,
medicine.
we have a lot of topics to get to. I think we did this. Lisa, you go ahead.
We are going to move on to the next topic, and this has come up earlier, and that is the issue of fracking. Pennsylvania only trails Texas in terms of natural gas production. Both of you have taken shifting positions on the issue of fracking. Mr. Oz, we begin with you. You wrote a column in 2014 calling for no fracking pending health study results. But in a video posted on social media in March, you said, quote, natural gas guarantees high-paying skilled jobs right here in Pennsylvania. So back off, Biden. Give us freedom to frack. Mr. Oz, please explain that changing position. 60 seconds.
I've been very consistent. Fracking has been demonstrated. It's a very old technology to be safe. It is a lifeline for this Commonwealth to be able to build wealth, similar to what they've been able to achieve in other states. For that reason, I strongly support fracking, drilling, the piping of that natural gas. In fact, I built a facility even in Philadelphia so we can export it to our allies and help them, the ones that are struggling now in Eastern and Western Europe because of the Ukrainian war. John Fetterman calls fracking a stain on Pennsylvania. He says that he would sign a moratorium to ban its continued use. He's against pipelines. He supported the vote against the Keystone pipeline that ended up shutting it down. He supports Biden's desire to ban fracking on public lands, which are our lands, all of our lands together. This is a extreme position on energy. If we unleashed our energy here in Pennsylvania, it would help everybody. Why John Fetterman is so rigidly stuck on fighting against energy companies is stunning to me, because it's the jobs I want. Tens of thousands of high-paying jobs to help Pennsylvanians.
Thank you, Mr.
Again,
Oz.
Oz rule.
Mr. Fetterman, 15
I
seconds.
absolutely support fracking. In fact, I live across the street from a steel mill, and they were going to frack to create their own energy in order to make them more competitive. And I support that, living closer to anybody else in Pennsylvania for fracking to myself. I believe that we need independence with energy, and I believe I've walked that line my entire career. I believe Democrats.
Mr. Fetterman, I do have a specific question, which you can continue on this topic, but you have made two conflicting statements regarding fracking. In a 2018 interview, you said, quote, "I don't support fracking at all. I never have." But earlier this month, you told an interviewer, quote, "I support fracking. I support the energy independence."
A real journalist and moderator. How nice.
So, Mr. Fetterman, please explain your changing position. 60 seconds.
I've always supported fracking, and I always believe that independence with our energy is critical, and we can't be held ransom to somebody like Russia. I've always believed that energy independence is critical, and I've always believed that, and I do support fracking. I've never taken any money from their industry, but I support how critical it is that we produce our own energy and create energy independence.
I must correct the record.
Just a second, Mr. Oz. I do want to clarify.
Hang on, real quick. And I know the good part is coming up. Fish Addict 2 says Cheryl Atkinson asked, "Did Fetterman's doctor report his stroke to VAERS as an adverse event following COVID vaccination as required?" I think that's a great question. What was the answer to that? I have no idea. All right, here we go. Gird your loins, guys.
Something. You're saying tonight that you support fracking, that you've always supported fracking, but there is that 2018 interview that you said, quote, "I don't support fracking at all." So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fetterman.
I'm sorry, Lisa, but there's not just a statement you read. There are multiple pictures of him signing a moratorium.
We have to move on.
But we have to get the fundamentals of the truth out here. John Fetterman over and over again took positions against energy.
We have a lot of topics. You will have a chance.
You know what? I wanted to give those debate moderators credit for putting the contradictory statements up, and I will give them credit for that, right? But the fact is that Dr. Oz is absolutely correct. John Fetterman just said something that made absolutely no sense at all. He said, I support fracking. I support fracking. And I've always supported fracking, which is directly contradictory to the statement that he made. And now Dr. Oz is correctly demanding that the record actually be clarified. And the debate moderator's like, nope, nothing to see here. Gotta move on. Dr. Oz is correct on this one. I don't generally like the bickering and the bullshit that goes on in this debates where people try to jump in just to own their opponents. But Dr. Oz won a point on this one.
To have that in your
one comment then. The energy industry is living in fear of John Fetterman. I want to know why.
Mr. Oz, we want to now turn to public safety. Mr. Fetterman, Republicans have called you dangerously soft on crime. The Pennsylvania State Troopers Association has endorsed Democrat Josh Shapiro for governor. But in this race, it endorsed your Republican opponent, Mr. Oz. What is your response to those endorsements? And what is your response to accusations that you are, quote, dangerously soft on crime? You have 60 seconds.
No. I believe that I run on my record on crime. I ran to be mayor back in 2005 in order to fight gun violence, and that's exactly what I did. And working with the police and working with our community, I was able to stop gun violence for 5.5 years as mayor, ever accomplished before or since my time as mayor, because I'm the only person on this stage right now that was successful about pushing back against gun violence and being the community more safe. All he's done is just put a plan up on his website in the last 24 hours. He has no experience. He has never made any attempt to try to address crime during his entire career, except showing up for photo ops. here in Philadelphia.
I will give you 15 seconds to respond to that, and then I have a question for you.
The Fraternal Order of Police from Braddock, the small town he represented, endorsed me. They supported me because what he's saying is not true. Violence skyrocketed in Braddock. I mean, the town wasn't in a good shape when John got there. It got worse when he was there. People kept leaving. So, of course, you're going to have, all kinds of aberrations. But, John, the city was dangerous under your leadership. And that's why
I want to turn to you now,
me.
Mr. Oz. This past summer, Congress passed the first gun control bill in decades. That would not have happened without the support of the man you are running to replace Pat Toomey. How would you have voted on that bill? And would you continue Toomey's legacy as being one of the lead Republicans in Congress on pushing for gun reforms? You have 60 seconds.
I have been supported by Pat Toomey. I've enjoyed working with him. I think he's done a wonderful job. There are parts of that bill that I like a lot. For example, I like the fact that there are background checks that are being strengthened now, so we can make sure that people who should not have guns don't get guns. I also like the fact that there was a lot of money invested for mental health.
So, Republicans, you're telling me that not only did you nominate a Senate candidate in Pennsylvania who is pro-choice, you also nominated a Senate candidate in Pennsylvania who is against the Second Amendment and supports restrictions on gun ownership? Well done, Republicans in Pennsylvania. You could have nominated anyone, and you chose the TV doctor who has advocated the transing of kids, who is pro-choice and anti-2A. Well done, Republicans. Could you have made a shittier choice?
Which is an important part of the equation. I've been to Philadelphia. I've done prayer vigils with Black clergy leaders who are desperately trying to save the people in their community. Half the murders in Philadelphia are committed by people under 18. We have got to get mental health services to these people, and it's not happening now. But part of the problem is that we have taken away the ability of police to do their job, and that's on John Fetterman. Because John Fetterman has taken such a harsh position against them. He's undermined them at every level, taken away some of their funding. He's pushed for Krasner, who he admires tremendously, and he's spoken highly of him just this week. He's taken his policies to a new extreme. He's argued that people should be let out of jail without any bail, no matter what they did to get in there. He's argued to release 1/3 of all prisoners, 1/3 of all prisoners out of touch.
Quickly, 15 seconds. Would you have voted for that Pat Toomey supported bill? If you
I would have tried to improve that bill. There are things that I think most of us appreciate. I wasn't there at the time, so I can't speak to what was possible. But I do know there are parts of that bill that do make sense, and the ones I described should be followed. Let's see how it works out.
Okay, thank you. Lisa.
On to our next issue, and that is illegal immigration. It has been a problem in the United States for decades, but it is now spiking. U.S. Customs and Border Protection just released numbers from fiscal year 2022. They show more than 2.7 million total enforcement actions in the U.S. That is the most ever. Mr. Oz, beginning with you. Republican governors in the South have been sending migrants to Democratic-run cities and states without a plan or without any coordination. It is certainly gaining a lot of attention, but is it an effective way to deal with the influx of migrants? You have 60 seconds.
Lisa, we have a catastrophe at the border, and we should not have sanctuary cities as John Fetterman has tried to introduce. But I've been into the parts of Philadelphia and Allentown and Reading where we have large Latino populations. I understand the challenges of the border. My father was an immigrant. My mother were immigrants. I understand what legal immigration offers us, but the completely porous, open nature of our border, which John Fetterman supports, has created a humanitarian crisis with cartels profiting with human trafficking operations. They take the money, they buy narcotics from China and bring that into our country, and it's making every state a border state. Pennsylvania is already a border state because we're top 3 in the country in fentanyl overdoses. Lisa, I can't go anywhere where giving a big event where I don't meet multiple people who say their personal lives have been destroyed because of fentanyl overdoses. Yet John Fetterman not only wants an open border, not only supports sanctuary cities, but he wants to legalize all hard drugs in America, including narcotics. That is, out of touch with everybody. That radical position was tried in Oregon, which he endorsed, 50% homicide increase rate.
Oh, one moment. I will give a 15-second rebuttal.
Yeah. That is, again, the Oz rule. That is just not true. Here his family's company was levied the largest fine for immigration hiring of immigrant illegals. And I think he should sit this.
He couldn't even. John Fetterman just tried twice to say the word immigration, and he couldn't pronounce it. And he changed it to illegals. He tried to say that it was either immigrant or immigration, and he could not pronounce it. Let's just watch that again, shall we? Let's enjoy that again. God damn it.
Here his family's company was levied the largest fine for immigration hiring of immigrant illegals. And I think you should sit this one out about in terms of what a secure border.
All right. We do have a follow-up specifically for you, Mr. Fetterman. Vice President Kamala Harris says the southern border is secure, yet we are seeing an unprecedented number of migrants crossing. Is the border secure? And if not, what would you do to fix what both parties are calling a crisis? You have 60 seconds, Mr. Fetterman.
I believe that a secure border can be compatible with compassion. I believe we need a comprehensive and bipartisan solution for immigration. That's what I believe. I don't ever recall in the Statue of Liberty did they say, take our tired, huddled masses and put them on a bus and use cheap political stunts about them. I believe we have to develop a comprehensive and bipartisan solution to address our issue here for immigration here in our nation.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. On to the next issue.
John's not addressing the elephant in the room, fentanyl.
We have to move on to the next issue. We will be circling back on that.
Turning now to foreign policy. Mr. Fetterman.
Does anyone else have almost an uncontrollable urge to just like beat your head against your own desk? Because honestly, if this microphone wasn't sitting in front of me right now, I would be like, Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said bipartisan. I'm pretty sure that is correct. Yeah. And I'm one that misspeaks all the time because I'm doing this off the cuff. I don't memorize things. I don't script things out. So I understand misspeaking, and I understand using a word you shouldn't, or like using completely the wrong word, and then you go back later, you're like, ooh, that was not correct. That was not what I was supposed to say. I have never misspoken as much as this guy has in this debate in like a single stream, and I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
Fetterman, what do you believe is the greatest foreign threat to the United States of America? You have 60 seconds.
I believe is right now is China. I believe China is not our friend, and I believe that we can't be able to push back, and we need to stand against China. And I believe that Dr. Oz has chosen to manufacture all of his merchandise on his name on it in China. Which one of us on this stage is going to stand up against and stand firm against China? And I believe that's our single biggest issue right now, to make sure that we address China and make sure that we know that it's not our friend.
Now, okay, no, here's the real question. So Ed Igma says, I agree with him there. Do you actually believe that John Fetterman is going to do anything about China? Because I don't believe he's going to do anything about it. Maybe that's just me. I don't have faith.
Roz, what do you believe is the greatest foreign threat to the United States of America?
Yeah, exactly.
You have 60 seconds.
The fact that our country is not projecting strength. Take, for example, what we're doing with Iran. In
That was a
order
good
to try to
line.
get them to give us a little oil so we can deal with the catastrophe that Russia has caused, we have gone to them and tried to sign a deal that would allow them once again to have the nuclear power to blow up Israel, which they promised they would do. John Fetterman supports that deal. It doesn't make any sense for America to treat our enemies better than our allies. We have to message with our strong voice and the energy we have in our country that we have control over our future. And the best way for America to establish its dominance is to unleash the energy here in Pennsylvania and across the country. By not doing that, not only do we cause all kinds of problems with local jobs and inflation, but we're destroying our ability to remain energy dominant, and We're not able to become allies like we should be for countries like European nations, which are going to struggle with their coldest winter ever. It's the best way to punch Putin back and to teach China a lesson is American energy to reign supreme. And John Fetterman doesn't like American energy, and they are scared of him because they know they can't trust him. He's proven it.
Mr. Oz, thank you. Lisa.
All right, on to our next issue. In our recent Nexstar poll, a hypothetical rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in 2024 would be a statistical tie in Pennsylvania. 46% of people said they would vote for former President Trump, 45% for President Biden. Mr. Oz, would you support a Trump 2024 run, and why 60 seconds?
I'll support whoever the Republican Party puts up. And I have reached out across the aisle on my campaign because I want to bring balance to Washington. And I've tried to work with Democrats and Republicans and people in the middle, people unsure, and people who forgot, and people who got angry with where their party was headed. I want to bring us together to make this country do what it's always been able to do. Unify, not divide, and address the problems as a surgeon, because in the OR, that's what I do. I just fix the big problem in front of me. John Fetterman, however, cannot go to Washington and work with the other side because he doesn't even get along with his own side. He criticized Joe Biden for not spending enough money and not sidling up close enough to Bernie Sanders. He says he won't work with Joe.
Do you know what Fetterman's going to say? What do we think Fetterman's going to say when he gets a chance to talk? Does anyone in the chat want to take a guess? What is John Fetterman going to immediately say as soon as he gets a chance to talk? Place your bets now. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for the chat to come in, mount that like button for me. Oz rule. That's exactly what he's going to say. Oz rule again. Always lie. Always lie. Oz rule. Always lie.
Manchin, he said, if you like Joe Manchin, don't vote for me. So if you're picking fight with your own party, you're not going to be able to reach across the aisle to the other side. His extreme positions have made him untenable for Republican lawmakers. We need to send someone to Washington who understands the importance of balance, sensible decision-making, and a common sense approach to the challenges that we all face. That's not John Fetterman.
Mr. Oz, Donald Trump has supported you. He has endorsed you. Why won't you fully commit to supporting him in 2024?
Oh, I do. I would support Donald Trump if he decided to run for president.
All right.
But this is bigger than one candidate. This is a much bigger story about how we're going to build a bigger tent to let more Americans feel safe.
Are you concerned about the ongoing legal investigations involving the former president? 30 seconds, sir.
I haven't followed them very carefully. I've been campaigning pretty aggressively. They'll work themselves out. I have tremendous confidence in the American legal system, and I believe law and order will reign supreme. But speaking about that topic, there's one person on this stage who's broken the law, we believe. John Fetterman took a shotgun, chased an unarmed African-American man, and put the gun, apparently, according to that man, to his chest. John, you weren't pulled over by the police. They let you go. You were the mayor at the time. Why haven't you apologized to that unarmed, innocent black man who you put a shotgun to his chest?
That was a good moment for Oz.
We will allow
that was
a
good.
30-second response to that, Mr. Fetterman, specifically what he was saying referring to the incident in Braddock.
I made the opportunity to defend our community as the chief law enforcement officer there. Everybody in Braddock, an overwhelmingly majority community of black community, all understood what happened. You know, they understood what happened, and everybody agreed that, and nobody believes that it was anything about me making a split-second decision to defend our community as well.
Why not apologize?
Mr. Oz, please. We are still with Mr. Fetterman. Turning to you right now, you support a Biden run. Do you support a Biden run in 2024? Why in 60 seconds?
That's obviously, it's up to his choice whether he, and if he does choose to run, I would absolutely support him. But ultimately, that's ultimately only his choice. All
right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. A follow-up question on this. Our Nexstar poll shows 51% of Pennsylvania voters disapprove of the president's job performance. You have publicly supported many of his policy positions. Are there any that you disagree with? 30 seconds.
He didn't prepare for this. Oh my God.
I just believe he needs to do more.
He just short circuit. What just happened is John Fetterman to this point has just been repeating talking points that he's memorized, and he's been repeating them completely inarticulately, but he has like a bank of talking points in his head that he uses at stump speeches all the time, and he's just completely repeating them, the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, just picking out the best talking point for whatever he was asked. He doesn't have a talking point for this question. And so he just short-circuited. He was trying to rifle through his brain. And I don't want to hear from anyone that he was reading off the teleprompter. No, 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 no. He was trying to rifle through his brain to find a talking point that matched the question that was being asked, and he just short-circuited. Let's watch that again. Hang on. I think I may have rewound a little bit longer. Okay. Well, we'll work it out. Hang on. Okay, I need to go back a little bit more.
1% of Pennsylvania voters disapprove of the president's job performance. You have publicly supported many of his policy positions. Are there any that you disagree with? 30 seconds.
No, I just believe he needs to do more about supporting and fighting about inflation. And I do believe he can do more about that. But at the end of the day, I think Joe Biden is a good family man. And I believe he stands for the union way of life. And I believe that unemployment is already down to the lowest level in the last 50 years.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Dennis.
Let's turn now, gentlemen, to the issue of Social Security. It is only fully funded through 2034. Many Americans are worried that they will never receive their full benefit or have to accept cuts to their benefits. Mr. Fetterman, how are you going to make sure it is there for them? You have 60 seconds.
We need to make sure that Dr. Oz and the Republicans believe in cutting Medicare and Social Security. I believe that they have to support and expand Social Security. And if somebody send me to Washington, D.C., I would support and stand and to support security.
What the hell was that? We believe that Republicans have to support Social Security. Did John Fetterman basically just concede that he thinks he's going to lose? Because he says we have to make Republicans support Social Security.
Republicans believe in cutting Medicare and Social Security. I believe that they have to support and expand Social Security. And if somebody send me to Washington, D.C., I would support and stand and to support security, Social Security.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oz. Same question to you. How are you going to make sure that Social Security is available for future Americans? You have 60 seconds.
We made a deal with the wonderful seniors of our nation. They worked their hearts out. They paid into a program. No one's going to touch it on my watch except to make sure that it's stronger than it is right now. Social Security, Medicare, which I know a lot about as a doctor, are the fundamental element of security for our seniors, and they deserve to feel like they're valued by our nation. John Fetterman, again, has been running ads and saying that I'm against those with no proof. I've never said anything different than what I'm saying to you on this stage. But in an effort to fearmonger with people who are older and can be taken advantage of, he'll run these ads. John, it's reprehensible, but it's also reflective of your approach to doing these things. You haven't shown up on the campaign trail. You haven't answered questions from voters, not once on the campaign trail. You haven't answered questions from media.
Oz is getting comfortable now.
Campaign trail, even just to show off that you could do it.
He was nervous at the beginning.
Debate I could get you to come to talk to me on. And I had to beg on my knees to get you to come. And if it wasn't for Dennis probably getting involved, I don't think it would have happened. Seniors need to know more about your radical left positions, and I need to be able to tell them about my positions. That's what democracy is built on. We exchange ideas, the voters decide. You have hidden from them.
Mr. Oz, I'm going to let you have 15 seconds in a moment, Mr. Fetterman, but can you give us a specific example of what you would do to protect Social Security?
Well, for one, we have to make sure that it adequately
Hang on. I want to answer a question I'm getting in the chat. Dr. Carlin, it's naive to think you will do more than spoil the vote to vote libertarian. A fact I learned after trying for 30 years in Pennsylvania, you control a primary, you get to get who you want. I don't give a fuck. I will gladly watch Democrats win every single election until Republicans stop nominating shitty candidates. And until you stop nominating shitty candidates, then I will celebrate every single time that you lose, because you are not changing your behavior and you believe you are entitled to my vote when you are not. Republicans believe that we are obligated to vote for them because they are not Democrats. That is not true. You have done nothing to earn my vote. You have done nothing to earn my support. You nominate people who are against your own values, who will do nothing. And then you kick and scream and complain when people say they're not voting for you and they're going to vote for the libertarian who is more in line with their values anyway. I don't care if Republicans lose. The mistake you make is believing that I think that you are better than Democrats. I do not. Republicans and Democrats are no different. You are no different. You are not better than them. The only people who thinks that Republicans are better than Democrats are Republicans.
Is with the higher inflation rates that we have. So we've got to make that 4% of wasted money that right now is in the budget redirected appropriately. And one of the first places that I would use it is Social Security and Medicare. And here's the reason. One of the worst things we can do to a people is give them bad quality care. And so if you have people who are not going to see a doctor, for example, because they can't afford it, they'll get sicker. Bad medicine means more cost. No one benefits.
Thank you. Mr. Fetterman, he said a few things a moment ago. I want to give you 15 seconds to respond to those.
Now, again, I can't just say one thing other than that Dr. Oz would not support, and he would support cutting Medicare. And that's
John, why do you say that? I've never said that.
It's absolutely a fact. It's a fact. You would have voted against the Inflation Reduction Act, which has dropped our prescription drugs, and he doesn't believe.
Okay, gentlemen, we need to move on. Lisa.
All right, we are moving on to the topic of education. The cost of college tuition is now out of reach for many, many families. Our question is for both of you. We start with Mr. Oz. What is your plan to bring down the cost of higher education long term? You have 1 minute.
Before we get to his answer, bringing down higher education, let's take this super chat from Shayna. No political party or candidate is owed anyone's votes. Voters have a right to pick whoever they want, even third party, write-in, or not voting at all. That's exactly right. You have a right to pick whoever you want. But I do not owe you my vote. I don't owe you my vote. No, you do have a choice. The Libertarian candidate is not as bad as Fetterman. You have a choice. You are choosing to vote for a horrible candidate, and you will get what you deserve. I hope John Fetterman wins. It will be what Republicans in Pennsylvania deserve. The Republicans in Pennsylvania absolutely deserve John Fetterman for the fact that they nominated Oz in the first place. And I won't feel bad for you at all in any way. This is what you get when you fuck around. You know, I remember after 2020, I'm old enough to remember a time when Republicans said, primary all rhinos, we're never voting for rhinos again, no more rhinos, we're only voting for America First people, no more rhinos, no more rhinos. That was 2 years ago. And now you're telling me that not only are you voting for a rhino, but you are demanding other people vote for your rhino candidate because Democrat bad? You get what you fucking deserve.
Mr. Oz.
I've worked in academic medical centers my whole life, so I'm in higher education. And I can tell you the reason the prices have gone up sixfold in the last 40 years is not because the education quality is better. We've added extra layers of middle level individuals who don't actually improve the quality education, in my opinion. There's a lot of expenses now incurred by these institutions, and it's not right for the American people.
Yes, I did like Kathy Barnett. Sadly, Republicans in Pennsylvania did not like Kathy Barnett. I supported Kathy Barnett. I pushed heavily for, and not that I mean anything. I don't mean anything. I'm not influential in any way, especially not in Pennsylvania. But you didn't vote for her. You did not do your job. You voted for the bad guy. You voted for the horrible candidate. I would have no problem with Kathy Barnett being in this race. And I don't agree with her on everything, but she was a good candidate. Oz is not a good candidate. The entire just remember, I'm old enough to remember a time several months ago when the entire Republican media establishment fought in favor of Oz and against Kathy Barnett. I remember a time when Rick Grenell had a multi-day Twitter temper tantrum over the fact that Kathy Barnett might win. I'm old enough to remember a time when Greg Kelly on Newsmax had a multi-day Twitter temper tantrum over Kathy Barnett. And what happened? The Republican base, because they're sheep, followed right along and voted for Oz. You get what you get, man. You guys are getting Fetterman, and I'm not going to feel bad for you at all. Not going to feel bad for you at all in any way. He is going to win.
That he's stuck with the bill. I would push them to offer more electronic classes. Half the kids don't live on campus anyway. John Fetterman's approach, however, is not to deal with the unnecessarily high costs, but just to pay it. So if you want to pay students who didn't pay their loans back, basically what John Fetterman and Joe Biden are arguing for is for plumbers who didn't go to college and couldn't, for a bunch of reasons, afford it, to pay the bills of lawyers who went to graduate school and haven't paid their debt back. I don't think that's right for the American people. We want a fair system. Drop the cost down by pushing for more value for the money we're spending, and then ensure there's a high-quality education that lets people make a living when they graduate.
All right, I will not work in higher education. Rebuttal specifically on the issue of student loan debt, which Mr. Oz was referring to. Mr. Fetterman.
Again, Dr. Oz, loves free money when it's a $500,000 tax break on one of his, homes down in a ranch in Florida. And whether it was a $50 tax break, about his farm in Montgomery County. So it's about supporting and helping, young earners, young
he didn't even get out a complete sentence.
Students to give them a break. I believe that supporting
all right, let me just ask specifically
with
the
my
plan to
God.
ease.
He did not even complete a full sentence. And they gave him extra time after the bell too. Hang on, I want to listen to that answer again. I'm sorry, guys, I have to. I'm professionally obligated to listen to that answer again.
All right, I will allow a 15-second rebuttal specifically on the issue of student loan debt, which Mr. Oz was referring to. Mr. Fetterman.
Again, Dr. Oz, loves free money when it's a $500,000 tax break on one of his, homes down in a ranch in Florida. And whether it was a $50 tax break, about his farm in Montgomery County. So it's about supporting and helping, young earners, young students to give them a break. I believe that supporting.
All right, let me just ask specifically with the plan to ease student loan debt, the debt forgiveness of $10,000, $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. Do you support that position?
I do absolutely support that. I believe, like I said, it's about helping young learners, be able to get a better start, getting off in the start of their life. And I do believe that. And I believe a majority of Americans support that as well, too. Helping helping young learners.
All right, Mr. Fetterman, I want to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Oz. And what is your plan to bring down the cost of higher education long term? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't answer. He didn't answer the question whatsoever.
I did answer the question.
Oh my God!
Please give him a moment.
You didn't.
Oh my God! They ask him, "What is your plan to bring down the cost of education in America?" And his answer is, Dr. Oz didn't answer the question. Yes, Stevie, I have seen parents protesting that meeting, and they're protesting books, which is going to do nothing and have no tangible result at all. So they're protesting the wrong thing. They're protesting the wrong thing very, very vigorously, but they're protesting the wrong thing, and they're going to trick themselves into believing they've won something when in fact they've won nothing. Because if they get those books pulled out of schools, they're just going to get replaced with other books, except this time the school's going to do a better job of hiding the books from the parents, and they haven't thought of this eventuality because they're so pissed off about the books themselves. So they're protesting the wrong thing. They're going to probably get a win on the wrong thing. They're going to congratulate themselves on the win on the wrong thing. Then they're going to go back to sleep and not do anything else while the schools continue to indoctrinate their kids. That's what I think of the protests in Michigan. It's the wrong thing. Anyway.
You didn't. You know, I fundamentally believe that every quality public university education should be very affordable in every state. And I think that needs to be a significant investment, you know, to make sure that anyone be able to afford to go to get a 4-degree university degree, you know, at Penn State or at Pitt or any state schools, to make it much more affordable. And that means acquiring a significant investment to make sure and create it affordable that every family can afford.
How exactly, Mr. Fetterman, do you propose doing that to make it more affordable for families?
No, I just believe making it that much more. It costs too much, and I believe providing the resources to reduce the tuition to allow families to be able to afford it.
All right, we have a follow-up question. This one now is for both of you. This is from News Nation viewer Ann.
That answer made no sense.
A registered nurse from Conneautville near Erie. Ann is a vocational educational instructor for a university and a practicing registered nurse.
If you were elected, could you please tell me what you would be doing for vocational education in the state of Pennsylvania as well as our nation?
So, Mr. Oz, if elected, what would you do for vocational education? You have 30 seconds.
I've visited vocational schools. I have an answer, but John, because obviously I wasn't clear enough for you to understand this. There's no question that cutting out the middle levels of higher education and providing digital programs would reduce the cost of education. It's a concrete set of ideas that I'd like to move on. With regard to vocational education, this is really important for us to allow our trade unions to get more closely linked with the vocational schools. I was in a vocational school in Westmoreland, and they have about 1,000 kids. They could take 2,000 kids. Funding those programs is the smartest way to invest our tax dollars. We'll turn out twice as many children who have a job as soon as they graduate. It supports our trade unions who want those kids in their positions anyway. It makes the whole program work.
Thank you, Mr. Oz. Mr. Fetterman, if elected, what would you do for vocational education? You have 30 seconds.
Again, I think it's just the same the way that university 4 degrees as well too. Supporting that and partnering with the
He's saying other things in song
sure
now.
That vocation training is affordable, and providing the resources to make sure everyone has the opportunity. Going to college isn't the right choice for every person, you know, but going to those kind of vocational schools, able to create a career to reach a lot of high salary, and again, supporting to reduce those costs are critical too.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Dennis.
Moving now, multiple members of Congress, specifically Democrats, have called for the Supreme Court to be expanded. Candidates, we want to know where you stand on this. Mr. Fetterman, should the Supreme Court be expanded? And if so, by how many justices? You have 60 seconds.
I don't believe, I don't stand, and I don't believe in that. You know, I fundamentally believe that even though I don't agree with the ideological breakup of the Supreme Court, you know, I believe it's not about changing the rules. It's about acknowledging where we're at, much the way the Republicans want to try to change the Constitution about how our Supreme Court in Pennsylvania is going to be done. And I don't support that. So I think it's critical that we be consistent, and I do not believe in supporting the Supreme Court.
Mr. Oz, same question to you. Should
What?
the Supreme Court be expanded? If so, by how many?
Did he just end that by look what he said at the end? I do not believe in supporting the Supreme Court. That's the closed caption from what John Fetterman just said. I do not believe in supporting the Supreme Court. See, y'all thought you agreed with John Fetterman until that last line. Yeah, I'll rewind. Someone in the chat asked me to rewind. I will. Okay. Fine. Fine.
And if so, by how many justices? You have 60 seconds.
I don't believe, I don't stand, and I don't believe in that. You know, I fundamentally believe that even though I don't agree with the ideological breakup of the Supreme Court, you know, I believe it's not about changing the rules. It's about acknowledging where we're at, much the way the Republicans want to try to change the Constitution about how our Supreme Court in Pennsylvania is going to be done. And I don't support that. So I think it's critical that we be consistent, and I do not believe in supporting the Supreme Court.
Mr. Oz, same question to you. Should the
Great.
Supreme Court be expanded?
Well done.
If so, by how many justices? You
Well
have
done,
60
Democrats.
seconds.
I would never touch the makeup of the Supreme Court, and I would advocate to leave it the exact same size it is. But John Fetterman's radical positions have spilled over into what he would do in Washington. One of the first things he has said, and he came back to the campaign trail, is that he wanted to bust the filibuster, which means removing the brakes on the Senate overreacting. That's
true. That is true.
But if you do that, then you
Oh,
free
good.
up
He wants to get rid of the
Democrats in Senate
filibuster.
without getting
Fucking
the
awesome.
normal amount of votes to actually
God
expand
damn
the
it.
Supreme Court, add more states, do things that are detrimental to the well-being of the country. So I think, and your first day
No.
back arguing that we should
wouldn't take
get rid
either
of the
of them.
filibuster is a dangerously radical move that would hurt Washington. It's not in our nation's best interest.
Thank you both very much.
All right. At this time, we are ready for our closing statements.
Oh,
You
thank
each
God.
have 90 seconds to convince Pennsylvanians to vote for you on Election Day. Mr. Fetterman, you are first. 90 seconds.
Once again, I would just like to say that my campaign is all about fighting for anyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that had to get back up again. You know, I'm
He's
also fighting
repeating
for
his
any
opening
forgotten
statement.
community all across Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that had to be made to get back up. You know, I've made my entire career dedicating to those kinds of pursuits. I started as a GED instructor back in Braddock over 20 years ago, because I believe it's about serving Pennsylvania, not about using Pennsylvania for their own end interests as well. To me, careers are revealed by your real underlying values. And my values have always been about fighting for forgotten communities all across.
Again, your mistake is believing that I think Republicans are different than Democrats. I do not. I choose neither. I am not obligated to choose one of your candidates.
Pennsylvania.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Oz, your final thoughts, 90 seconds.
I've loved traveling to the four corners of the beautiful Commonwealth, and I've heard your problems. I'm a surgeon, doctor. I listen to what you say, and I'm trying to help address them today. I've talked to seniors worried their Social Security checks wouldn't go far enough with the raging inflation. I've talked to couples want to make their first down payment on a new house, and they can't afford it anymore because of interest rates. I've talked to families.
You want to cut
petrified.
Social Security.
He's
Mr. Fetterman, it's
interrupting
turn for
his
his
closing
I've
statement.
talked to families worried about fentanyl showing up in their mailbox and literally taking the lives of their children who they find blue in bed. I've talked to families who won't let their kids go outside because of the crime wave that's been facilitated by left radical policies like the ones John Fetterman has been advocating for. But here's the deal, right? None of this has to happen. This is all very addressable. I'm a surgeon. I'm not a politician. We take big problems, we focus on them, and we fix them. We do it by uniting, by coming together, not dividing. And by doing that, we can get ahead. But I've got one question to challenge you with, just one question. If you take what I'm saying to heart, ask yourself this and others in your family. Are you unhappy with where America's headed? I am. And if you are as well, then I'm the candidate for change. I'm a living embodiment of the American dream. I believe we're the land of opportunity, the land of plenty. I believe we can balance a budget without recklessly spending. I believe we can have an unleashed energy policy that helps us all. I believe that we can have safe city streets and a secure border so legal immigrants can come across, but you shut the fentanyl out. I believe we can give parents choice in where their kids go to school. We can have affordable health care. But most of all, I believe in you. And if you can do this together, and we can, I would ask for your vote on Election Day. God bless you.
We do have one final question, an important issue in Pennsylvania. The eyes of the state are on this debate tonight, but on Sunday they will be on Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia as the state's two NFL teams go head-to-head. Mr. Fetterman, Steelers or Eagles, and why?
Oh, clearly, always for the Steelers.
Mr. Oz.
I'll be at the game rooting for my Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Gentlemen, thank you both so much. This does conclude our debate. We do want to thank our candidates for being with us.
That was a massive, massive, massive shit show. Divine says, wonder if he is going to step down for medical reasons so he can be replaced by someone else. Oh, no. No, that's not going to happen. If that were going to happen, it would have happened weeks ago. Emily says the reason we have two main parties is because people are not brave enough to vote them out. That is exactly correct. I'm sorry, Pennsylvania. There is one choice that is an acceptable choice. And it's not John Fetterman, and it's not Dr. Oz, it's Eric Gerhardt. So I want to encourage everyone in Pennsylvania. Just take a look at him. He's wearing a hat. I understand Republicans are going to allow a fucking Neanderthal to be elected to the United States Senate because they're annoyed that someone's wearing a hat they don't like. But for everyone who thinks that both of those candidates are shitty candidates that are unworthy of your vote or support for Senate, I'm going to recommend that you look into Eric Gerhardt. He is the Libertarian nominee for Senate. And really, does it really matter if either Fetterman or Oz wins? Oz is going to do nothing. He's going to do nothing. He might be slightly more presentable, which I know is all Republicans care about is image, so maybe that's enough. But Oz is going to do nothing. He does not support you on abortion. He does not support you on guns. He literally told you that in this debate. But you're going to probably be distracted by the fact that John Fetterman was like a grade A moron in this debate. And so it's going to make Oz look just slightly better. But Oz told you in this debate that he is pro-choice and wants to take away your guns. I promise you, Eric Gerhardt is not going to want to take away your guns. At all. In any way. So I would recommend that everyone go to Eric, ERIK, the number 4, PA, and check out his website and find out what he would do in the Senate. And perhaps, give him a chance to convince you that he might be a fully functional adult. Because what we just saw on that debate stage was pathetic on both sides. Oz ain't getting no pass from me just because he's better than Sloth from the Goonies. No, Gerhardt could not run for governor because there is a different libertarian candidate running for governor. So, yeah, bro, you're literally voting for someone who's going to take away your guns. Take a fucking seat. God, imagine Republicans voting for someone that's against the Second Amendment and they're like, how stunning and brave. I just don't even know what to say to that debate. I don't even know what to say. That is exactly why there is absolutely no reason to take politicians seriously at all. It's no, and why we have no obligation to take the two parties seriously at all. The fact that both of I can't, I've said it a million times already in this stream. The fact that this is the reality, that those are the two candidates for Senate, and you guys have a perfectly great libertarian candidate in Eric Gerhardt, and he wasn't even allowed on the debate stage. Bro. What the hell? You all can do better than this. And I promise you, if you elect Oz, if you allow Oz to go to the Senate, you're going to end up getting nowhere. The very best message that you guys could send is voting for the Libertarian, is in giving the middle finger to both parties, saying, how dare you stick us with this choice? How dare you nominate these two people? They are not going to learn unless they lose. They are not going to get better unless they lose. They have no incentive to provide you with good candidates unless they lose. The entire Republican establishment backed Dr. Oz. And that's the best they got? It is insane to play into this system and to pretend that those are acceptable candidates. No, the Libertarian absolutely cannot beat Dr. Oz or John Fetterman. Excuse me. The Libertarian can't win because you guys refuse to vote for him. Because you would rather be represented by people who hate you than vote for someone who could actually do something. So you're going to get what you deserve. Either way, Pennsylvania is going to get what they deserve. And I feel really sorry for people like some of the people in the chat that are in my community, that are in Pennsylvania, who are going to be stuck with the output of this. Sin, Democrats should be livid about this candidate too. The Democrats should be livid about this candidate. Everyone should be livid about both of these candidates. Everyone on both sides should be livid about these candidates. I just don't even know what else I can say about John Fetterman. I have no idea what to say. Yes, Jeffrey, that is exactly correct. You are no different than the Democrats. Thank you for saying it so clearly. Thank you for articulating so clearly that Republicans are no different from the Democrats and are just as tribalist. Thank you for admitting what we all know is the truth. I just don't even know what to say. The two-party system is irrevocably broken. The two-party system is what has just delivered you two horrible candidates on the Senate stage, one of whom can barely speak, and the other of whom is a TV doctor. And y'all want to get your feels in a bunch because I'm not going, Dr. Oz, yay, yay, Dr. Oz, yay, yay. Just because the other guys suck, Republicans, doesn't mean I'm voting for you, and it doesn't mean I'm going to support your guy, because your guy sucks too. And just because the other guy can barely put a sentence together does not mean that your candidate is entitled to our vote. So, look at Garrett Gerhardt. That's my final word for today. That's all I've got. I have nothing else to say about this. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another stream. I may have a very special guest on tomorrow for a very special and, well, original stream that the New Hampshire GOP is really not going to like. But that's for tomorrow. For right now, guys, mount that like button on the way out the door. I want to remind everyone that my supporters have movie night in the Discord on Sunday at 8 p.m. We're watching Poltergeist. If you would like to be invited to the supporter Discord, there are a couple ways to do that. You can head over to activelyunwoke.com/support. You can join my Patreon. You can join my locals. You can become a paid supporter on my Substack. All of those will get you invites to the supporter Discord. And then you can join us for movie nights. We do regular movie nights and lots of other stuff going on in the Discord. Writers group tomorrow in the Discord at 7 p.m. There is a writers club in my community. They do very creative things together. If you're looking for a creative outlet, we got the place for you, because you know what? We need a little reprieve from the insanity that is this current system. That's all I got for right now, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care and have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.